I'm going to do a video about the GOAT in the NBA. But I'm taking a different spin than usual. I want to go a little bit back in history into the NBA. I want to cover it to its fullest. Not all the way. I don't have a lot of time for that. But I want to explain how the NBA got to where it got to today. There was a time in the NBA which started in 1947, 46, 47, was a very popular league. In no time, it became very, very popular. I mean, teams in Rochester, Philadelphia, teams in Boston, St. Louis, Fort Wayne, Washington, Baltimore. I mean, teams all over became instant, success. And then later on, those teams moved to different places. San Francisco, uh, they moved to Los Angeles, they moved to Atlanta, and so on and so forth. And then we get into the 1970s. And the ABA has started in 1967. ABA was a very good league, young league. It was like the AFL. Same dynamics, new upstart league challenging the old established league. The basketball was very good basketball. I mean, they dunked, they played with red, white, and blue ball. Guys couldn't make it in the NBA either because of lack of space or so-called lack of talent. Could go to the ABA and shine. They had an array of talent there, and for long, it became very credible. Okay, now let's think about this. Let's look at what happens whenever you got a polished product, and that product is yielding a lot of commerce and excitement. All except one thing was wrong. It was minority based. It became more minority based. There was a lot of European or Caucasian players in the ABA. Dan Issel, you had Billy Pauls, you had guys like Rick Barry played it for a while. You had Billy Cunningham, and you had at San Antonio, one of the leading scorers. He was also Caucasian. He was very good. Lou Dampier. That's right, Lou Dampier. And they played, a good game. Same with the NBA. You had the Celtics, as you know. The Celtics was always an integrated team. You had Bobby Jones, Dan Issel, which came over from the ABA. You had Rick Barry, that was established. Pete Maravich. You had what's his name? Play? Oh yeah, guy played with oh yeah, Lou Hudson, Gail Goodrich. Gail Goodrich. You had Jerry West, one of the greatest of all time, regardless of color. The guy was bad. The guy was out here. He was sensational. But for some reason, white America just was not satisfied at the way that the game was being played. Matter of fact, there was a lot of times in arenas across the United States and large cities was half empty because they just didn't like going to games where you had the majority of the floor was black. There was nothing to put up 10 black guys on start the game off. 5 on this side, 5 on that side. and they started talking about it. So they integrated. The ABA was bought out. They merged. Some of the teams became defunct, and they brought their production in, and the NBA, the old established league, profited. But at the same time, still, it just wasn't good enough. This happened in 1976. Even Julius Erving, which came from the New York Nets, he became an instant star in the AB in the NBA. And you would think it's spectacular as Julius was, that Julius would have been everything they needed to usurp the league. But it wasn't. Because Julius is always mild mannered. He no one that represented the fellas. Now, I'm not saying he didn't speak out. He spoke out when he felt like it. You say something out of the way to him, you'll find out. But his style was he wanted to play basketball. He wanted to take care of his family. And I understand that. I respect that. Respect that a lot. One of the most decent people I've ever seen in sports is Julius Erving. Very decent man. Very respectable man. That got his head together and his heart in the right place. So the league's popularity kept going down and down and down until 1979. That's when everything changed. That's when the league woke up. And that's when it became something that it had never became before. Larry Bird and Irvin Magic Johnson played in the finals. Michigan State against Indiana State, a tight contest. The Bird was already the rights of the Boston Celtics anyway, so he was not going to anyone else except them. And you basically said the same for the Lakers. So those two teams, those organizations, have set a pigeonhole the market, and they played the following year in the 79-80 championship. Now, mind you, this game was time delayed on a Friday night. I had just got come back from a high school football game, and as the game was ending, the basketball game was on the radio. Can you imagine this day and time, an NBA contest being on the radio? It was on the radio. That's how we heard. Then I went back inside, and then it came on later that night. I stayed and watched it. It was after 2 o'clock by the time I went to bed, but it was time to leave because the NBA was trying to grow and trying to shed the ghetto stigma of what it had on its plate of basketball being from the urban league and from the ghettos and from the slums and from the prisons and stuff like that. And white people couldn't identify with it. So what I'm saying is that this GOAT thing is a relatively new thing. Nobody cared about who was the GOAT when Wilt Chamberlain and Walt Bellamy and Bill Russell and all those played. Elgin Baylor and Connie Hawkins, Dr. J, Oscar Robertson. Nobody cared about that then, but the GOAT was used, in my opinion, in my assessment, to bring about a revolutionary change in the culture. Because right after that, then you had a flood of players from Europe, from Africa. They started seeping in, especially in the 1984 draft. And the league started taking on a new face, a brand new face. And it started seeing things differently. And it started being promoted differently. When the days you see Chuck Taylors or Adidas and or Archdales or Pumas, now you're seeing a different type of tennis shoe. And then here comes Michael Jordan. First season, 84, 85. He averaged 28.8 points a game. Magic and Bird put the face on the NBA. They put the face back on the NBA. Jordan put the NBA around the world. He changed the way it was looked at, the way it operated, by doing endorsements. That's how he was used. Now, I have nothing against Michael Jordan. I don't know him personally, and I can't sit here and say I do. But the brother was used just like Magic and Larry was used. But they only used them for rivalry. They brought back the rivalry, which had died in the 1960s between the Lakers and the Celtics. But Michael Jordan was used to revolutionize basketball altogether. To revolutionize it, bring international fame to the United States and to Europe itself and other parts of the world by doing endorsements. That's why his greatness is elevated above beyond everybody else's. Because Michael made the NBA greater than anybody else, but in the commerce and public opinion. Not as far as scoring, not as far as the game being a better game as far as talent. He made it better when it came down to endorsements and selling the product. He made it when his product was sold across the globe. I mean, across the globe. And it continued on and on and on and on and on. That's how the NBA became what it became. Because before that, the NBA was just a whitewashed league. You had some very good basketball players, but most of these basketball players were airmen only. They wasn't going to go for be spokesmen around the world. They was not going there for use their talents to bring in the European girls and little boys and and show them the way. Michael did that. But at the same time, Michael had no problem doing that because Michael came from a family that was used to integration, was used to assimilation, was used to professionalism. See, when you're looking at the NBA or sports or politics, whatever, you have to look at the personality. Look at the personality of the persons that they choose. And you'll see that they just don't choose anyone. They choose you based off where you are, where you've been, and where you're going. Can he carry the mantle? They always say he's a great basketball player, great football player, a great baseball player, but he don't know how to play the game. I've explained what that means. Playing the game means learning the political aspects of it. When you learn the political aspects of how the game is played, which that's what it matters, then you're gonna be successful. Yeah. And then there will be things that happen on the court you can't believe because the officials are in on it, the coaching staffs on both teams are in on it, the players, you got the media, you got everybody in on it. It's about selling the sport, and that's how that's how the NBA, or CBS, or NBC, or ABC got itself together and how it never looked back because it was used as a stepping stone to push a product. It's called capitalism, globalization. This could not have happened. Not as soon as it did, had Magic and Bird not laid the groundwork. And then Jordan took and picked it up by flying off the tracks or the runway. You see, Jordan picked up, well, Magic and Bird started. They were not high jumpers. They were earthbound. They poured the concrete, the asphalt. He soared off of it. Yes. And that's what you got right now. A game. That's in the billions and trillions. But 40, 45 years ago, the game was nowhere near that popular. I mean, you had in the NBA, believe it or not, let me tell you, you had teams in the NBA that folded. The Buffalo Braves, they folded. You don't hear that in sports anymore. The Buffalo Braves started in 1970. They had Bob McAdoo. He played that team. And so the guy named Randy. Got a guard that played there. Very good guard. But they basically got rid of that team. They folded. And they became the San Diego Clippers, who became the Los Angeles Clippers. Yeah, you had teams that from Jersey, the Nets was back and forth. But a long time ago, that happened. A long time ago. It sure did. So that's why I wanted to share a little bit on this video. Leave your comments. Let me know what you think about it. Peace.